But she's saying the fridge. Do some goddamn Wim Hof breathing and soften up.
That's not how I said it, but you know what I mean.
She ain't wrong. But I said it how I said it because that's what I heard. Is y'all are a bunch of and you need to wake up and go join your local law enforcement and make better in your community. And that's not what she said. She said, hey, be good people, man. Be good people, be good parents, and have understanding that you don't know shit. Welcome to another episode of Cowboy Talks. Today, we are here with somebody who is pretty damn awesome. She is a former Navy vet. She serves us currently in law enforcement. A poet, takes a lot of things that most people would run from and puts them down on paper. One of the things that actually led me to follow her on the social media and everything else is she leads with vulnerability, but is a badass, and you would know better. So today we got Diana, and thank you so much for coming.
Of course.
And we got to know each other rather quickly today because I already had to call in a favor on accident. But,
pretty fast. Why don't you tell us about it?
It's always good to have a friend and somebody who knows people. So just had an incident happen, and she was able to the people that she knows and works with, make it a hell of a lot easier than it would have been if I was navigating it by myself. So to that, I salute you.
Of course.
And I want to get into a lot of things today, but number one, give you some flowers because you're a dope ass mom, a dope ass friend. I see the way. I hope that all of my daughters had friends like you.
I appreciate it.
I mean, you're a badass. You went from working for like the government to then working for like a city government, which I don't know which one is worse or which one is more dangerous, to be honest.
The federal government, actually, yeah.
100% probably.
1,000%. I don't have to muster anymore, bro. Like,
right?
Yeah, I'm good.
Can I ask you a question? What is it about? And I don't say this in a way that's slighted, but mostly like the military and law enforcement is a more male-dominated industry, let's say.
Sure.
Or just statistically, there's more guys in it.
Of course.
What is it about that draws you to it? Or what is it that makes you want to go do things that most people would say, that's not a lady's thing to do?
That's exactly why. I grew up in an environment and within a culture that literally tells women what they should and shouldn't do, what they should participate and shouldn't participate in, you know, and not to knock my big brother because he really, really, I know he wants the best for me or my father, but they've always told me like, you should be, you know, just a mom, focus on being a mother to your children, a wife to my husband at the time. And I was just so tired of people telling me how I should live my life as a woman because they're not women.
That's a fact.
I'm my own woman.
Absolutely.
Right? And so like, who are you as a man?
How did you find that though?
Find what?
So if so many people are telling you how to be a woman, how did you find like
my mom?
So how did she instill that in you then?
My mom,
because you understand
my mom
had a lot of people will tell.
My mom had a really rough upbringing.
Okay.
You know, and so she was always. She didn't stay in her marriage with my father for a long time because she understood that, you know, there is so much that you can allow somebody to control in your life. And so she decided to step away from that. My dad was really abusive to her growing up. And I even got to experience that after he came to the States. And that was after my mom decided to come here on her own after he was sent to prison because he was a part of really bad things. And so while he was in there, she was like, I'm going to bring my family over to the United States in a very obviously non-legal way. And so
allegedly.
Allegedly. Actually, no, that's actually true. And I will never lie about it. I came to this country very undocumented, very illegally. And it was because of my mom, you know, all of us, my mom, my big brother, my big sister, myself, came over to this
However, you
country
served this
illegally.
country.
So I'll get to that. So I was 5 to 6 when I came here.
Okay.
Came over here. I remember coming over here, crossing the river and everything. My whole journey to this country.
No
I
shit.
remember it absolutely.
What was that like?
Well, I remember being put in a trash bag and dragged across the river. It was raining. I just remember it was raining so much.
And how was this
And
river?
then
Was this river like, is this river, so most people may think like a river. They might think,
it wasn't super big. It wasn't like super like crazy or like
so they're like
violent.
going rapids or nothing, but it's just a deep river.
There was some rapids, but it wasn't that bad, you know? And I just remember my mom had come to the United States before we did. So my aunt was the one that facilitated us coming over to the country. And obviously they paid for that. They paid coyotes for that. And so we came to this country in that way. And I remember specifically being in Texas. And we were at this ranch that this lady owned where she housed people who were coming over here undocumented. And I just remember like at one point, everybody being out in the field, like helping her, like in her farm or whatever. And then you just hear like horse hooves. And this is my memory. Okay. And you just hear horse hooves. And then it's like everybody's around me. And then literally the next second, it's just me. And then this guy's asking me like, and on this like, mama, like, where's your mom? And I'm like, no, I don't know. So this lady comes out and she's like, why are you talking to my daughter? And this is the lady that housed us at that farm. And he's like, oh, like, I don't know what he said, like, I'm sorry or something. And he left. And then after that, I just remember like going from there to being in Kansas City, Kansas with my family. And that's all I remember. There's like a blank memory of what happened between then and me getting to Kansas City, Kansas.
How long was that blank? Like if you had to think about time, like a year, 6 months,
maybe like months.
Months.
Yeah, maybe like months. It was within the same year.
What do you think blocks that out? Was it just like a really difficult time, or
a
lot of confusion? Like
I think so. I think just like me not understanding.
Because you were with your aunt, right? You weren't with your mom.
I wasn't with my mom at the time. It was
How old were you?
I was 5. Yeah, so it was just me, like maybe just not understanding the situation.
Oh hell no, you didn't understand.
Yeah, I didn't know anything. I didn't know anything, and so all I remember.
Oh, one of my daughters is 5, so like I just think of her, and then I think of if she's with her aunt, but she knows she's going to her mom. But then there's this time, right? Because kids don't really understand time.
No, we don't.
That's why you got to set timers for these little kids, because you'll tell them, hey, 20 minutes, and they'll call them back to you 2 minutes later and go, hey, yeah, it's been an hour. Yeah. And I want to know what, like, no, it's been like 120 seconds.
Exactly.
So, like, what do you think that you blocked it out because you were just numb, or like what? Like,
honestly, I think it's just the way memory works.
Yeah, I think so. You're so young. It's just crazy.
Yeah, and I just don't remember it, and that's okay. I don't recall.
Oh no, it's just probably hard work, like
traumatizing happening.
So I work in the construction industry, and I've talked to a lot of my friends who are allegedly from Honduras and other places, and they've come through a similar path, and they always talk about working on ranches.
Yep.
And these people are beautiful people who take care of these people.
Yeah.
But they also get a benefit. Let's not be silly, right? So they get a benefit of either labor or something else. But
of course,
like they told me so many beautiful stories on these ranches and stuff like that, but also have told me some really dark shit that happens in different areas and different places. So it's wow. I didn't know that. So then how do you go from, you're 5. So then by the time you're still 5, you're in Kansas City, Missouri. So then did you like go right into, or Kansas City, Kansas? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Did you go right into, like kindergarten, like 5 years old?
So that's honestly my next memory is like, it was preschool. I was going into preschool.
Okay.
And I remember my uncle, it was like, my cousin, I don't want to name names, but my older cousin, her sister, her younger sister,
just make up fake names.
Myself. And it was, my other cousin. So like 6 of us and my uncle packed in this super small sedan. And we're sitting in front of the school, and all of a sudden my uncle is like, So what does everybody want to be when they grow up? And my cousins were like, I want to be an architect. I want to be a firefighter. I want to be a police officer. I want to be a lawyer. And then me, because all I knew was what my mom did at the time. She was a maid. And I was like, I want to be a maid. And that was literally the running joke, literally till this day. Like, my uncle is like, you remember when you wanted to be a maid?
Which is funny
and they
because you
make
didn't
fun
want
of
to be
me.
told what to do.
Yeah, and they still make fun of me for saying that. And I'm like, what the
You're probably
fuck?
just like nervous, like, I don't know what to say.
Yeah, I didn't know what to say. I had no idea what I wanted
You're
to be.
opposite of a maid, I'll tell you that.
I didn't know that there were so many options supposedly open to me at the time, because I didn't find out that I was undocumented until I was like...
Trying to join the Navy?
No, until I was applying for college. My junior year of high school.
Shut up.
Yeah, and then I had to have this hard
conversation with your mom.
With my mom, and I'm like, Mom.
And hold on, this is This is good for women. Literally. So what the fuck was that like?
So I asked my mom, I was like, Mom, can I not like go to college? Am I not like documented? And she's like, no, do you remember? She applied for my residency when I was in 4th grade.
Okay.
And I didn't understand it then because I was still so young. And so
I don't understand what residency is. What is that?
So residency is like...
Is that different from immigration?
It's a step below citizenship, right? So it allows you to be
live
in this country for a certain period of time, like 4 to 6 years, right?
Okay.
So citizenship allows you to be here permanently, but residency, you have to renew it at a certain point in time. And so she applied for my residency in 4th grade, and I didn't, like, she told me about it, but I didn't fully understand what that was about. And so I didn't get it until I was a senior in high school. She applied for my residency in 4th grade. I didn't get my interview with immigration until I was a senior in high school.
Holy shit. What was that like?
So I waited a long time. I went back.
Because you're basically American. So you speak the language, everything else. You understand.
Yes,
you went through the education system from kindergarten.
Absolutely, yes.
So it's like you're sitting down with immigration, like, why the fuck am I talking to you?
Exactly. So I'm in immigration, and they're like asking me all of these like history questions, like, you know, is my mom like really married to my stepdad? Because my stepdad is the one who petitioned for me to get my residency.
Which he can't, because
because he was married to my mom at the time. Of course. And so,
so did you just fall in like a gray area that just never got like followed up on because there's so many people, or like?
No, it's so for certain countries, you have to wait 10 years until you get an interview. You have to wait that long. You have to get vouched for that long. Yeah, and Mexico is one of those countries.
Well, I mean, you're right there. Canada's probably another one too, I'm sure.
Yeah, so a lot of Latin American countries fall under that.
Yeah, because it's just you give so much time because they're probably here.
But as a law enforcement officer, I understand now why.
Right.
You know?
Right.
But this is hindsight. You know, back then I'm like, why did I have to wait so long?
But doesn't it kind of that's got to be your path? Like when you look at it and go, oh, this makes sense now.
Yeah. Yeah, and I didn't even think.
How the fuck you gotta be a superhero when you're like 5 years old? Like, listen, I know what I was homeless as a young kid, and it was very confusing, but I adapted very quickly, and it's made me very good at a lot of things, especially being in the military. But it's not normal.
No,
it's not normal to. I can only imagine what it would be like traveling into another country with your auntie, with your Didi. All right. Not your tío, not a man, not somebody who's supposed to make you feel safe or a man or period, but just traveling and going to mom. Hopefully. Yeah. If we don't get caught, and be quiet. Yeah. And then getting a trash bag. Like I couldn't. I feel like a pussy.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really think about it much because all I think about
is it's like, pretty incredible.
It's the fact that like I'm here, right? You know, and I felt like I had like the world at my feet, but I didn't know that I didn't because
I think you do in a whole different way. I think that you are a bridge to a lot of things in a lot of different ways.
Yes, but back then I wasn't, and it didn't really happen until I got my residency.
And how did you get that? Let's talk about that. So we're going to college, right? We think.
So my senior year of high school, I get my letter for immigration.
And this is all out here or in Kansas City, Kansas?
In Kansas City, Missouri.
Or Missouri.
That's where we ended up moving. So Kansas City is like in Kansas and Missouri. So we moved from Kansas City, Kansas to Kansas City, Missouri.
Right.
And then my senior year of high school, I get a letter saying that my immigration interview is in Chihuahua. And so I had to go back to Mexico.
That's really dangerous to do.
Well, my brother fortunately still lived there. So my brother drove all the way.
And because you have your stepdad who's
he picked me up, drove back with my brother. His wife's family lived there at the time, so I stayed there with him during that time of like when I was supposed to get interviewed. I got denied my first interview, so I had to stay there an additional 3 weeks during my senior year of high school. I went from, and it still kills me to this day. I went from a 4.8 GPA to a 3.9. Okay. And that hurt my heart so bad because I have always been an
Hold on. But you were trapped in another country.
Yes, I was.
But you still beat yourself up?
Yeah. Oh, because I'm such I am a Scorpio and I'm such an overachiever because my mom always harped on me to be like the best of the best because we don't get a lot of opportunities. You know, like this is a lot of Hispanic people's lives. This is their narrative. Like,
that's why I said you're a bridge that you don't even understand because like I said, I work in construction.
But it's not just me. It's not just me.
That's what I'm saying.
So many people, so many Hispanics.
Which is why you are the bridge.
You know?
Because you're the success story that shows.
But there's
shit's weird.
It's weird, but there's many success stories.
Hello.
There's a page on Instagram actually called Fools in Medicine. Right. And I love them so much. And
why?
I hope that you mention them too, because these are guys.
We just mentioned them. Fools in Medicine. I know a lot of fools in medicine. They are probably the ones that are right because Dr. C is my favorite.
These are guys who came from families who are not here documented, but they are working to be doctors. And I just love them so much because of like their
you know what I call that? You know what I call it though? I tell people who have immigrant parents, you have a superpower that you don't understand. Because
and I love
y'all work so much harder than anybody understands. And you also work smarter. Because your parents are drilling into your head some different things, which a lot of people don't understand. I call it the immigrant mentality. I tell people all the time, give me a list of people. And I'll list them in order. And a lot of the people I want to work with are Hispanics because they're problem solvers. They're just like Marines. They can do some shit with nothing.
No, literally. But these guys
they can make you some food out of nothing.
But these guys are so smart and they understand the opportunity that has been given to them. Just like thankfully I have. Right? Like my mom worked so hard.
But you didn't think that it was an opportunity because you're 18 thinking you're here.
I knew that it was an opportunity.
What I'm saying is you said that you didn't know.
I didn't know that I was undocumented, but I knew that
your mom struggled to get
being here was an opportunity.
Correct.
Right? I just knew that
How did you keep a positive mindset being a senior female, all right? And my oldest daughter's 19, so I just got through this. Y'all go through a lot of hormones, a lot of y'all overthink shit in average because you're a female and you guys are planners.
Yeah.
So like, how in the freak did you get this kind of news? And then still a 3.9 after hearing all that to me is a success story. Okay. But at a strong 3.0 GPA perspective. Okay. Because I hated school. School to me was a joke. I wanted to make money.
School was a privilege to me. Being able to get an education here was a privilege.
I feel like a cunt. But I just looked at it as such a waste of time because I watched my parents and I watched my teachers and I watched everyone. And I thought everybody was so full of shit. And I just wanted to get to earning and providing and because that's
the thing with us immigrants is we have been earning and providing since before we even started going to school. Earning and providing is the number one priority for us.
100%.
I started working under the table at 10 years old.
Say it again.
And going to school.
Say it again. And y'all motherfuckers complain about shit. Y'all complain about traffic and the Starbucks not having your order ready when you arrive.
And this is true. But
I've just been to a lot of countries, and I tell people, I was like, you guys don't understand. Just living in America with electricity and running water makes you the top 2% in the world.
And that's literally true. That's literally true.
Literally.
Going to school was a privilege for me.
And you just kind of made me think differently because I did take advantage of my military benefits. I went and got my bachelor's degree, and I've always taken school serious because I understood that it's a metric, right? It's something that is judged and graded, right? So I did take it serious, but I knew I could coast through that shit and get a B without taking it serious, because I also knew that I don't give a shit what George Washington did. I don't.
But that's because you already know the history. That's because you already know the language.
Well,
For us,
kind of to me, George Washington never paid a bill unless it was with his face on some money. So they didn't teach us about money. They didn't teach us about sex. They didn't teach us about relationships.
But those are superficial things to us. To us, is that we have to learn a different language. We have to acclimate to the culture,
which is exactly opposite of your language.
The things that you deem superficial are a privilege for us to know.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Because we have to go through so many other hurdles to even get to the point that you've already been at.
Shit that I was born into.
Exactly.
And then I guess that's entitlement to a degree.
Exactly.
But I also grew up with a crazy like story, but school was always like, it was never a thought. But it was never a thought. It was something that was no. It's something that's expected. Like I was just expected to go to school.
Exactly.
It wasn't that was a privilege to go to school. I never thought that, even in public school.
Yeah.
I didn't go to private school. I went to public school, and we hated on the kids at private school. And guess where all my kids are? Private school. But just because I want them around people who think a certain way, because I wish that I would have run around some different thinking.
Yeah.
That's why I've met some rich idiots, because they were raised around money, so they never think about it.
Yeah.
And that, when you think about it, you manifest. So if you think negatively about money, guess what?
But then that's also true. But you need to think that like you were already 5 steps ahead. We have to start from the bottom to even get there. I never thought about thinking about money as a privilege. I never thought about money the way that I do now. I was always in a scarcity mindset. I was always in a victim mindset.
Likewise, absolutely.
So we have to go from, damn, I am literally nothing here in this country. What am I going to do to overcome that? And now you get to that point and you have to go 10 steps to wherever you're even at. And then everybody is always ahead of us. You know what I mean? And now we have to like fucking do whatever the fuck we can.
Well, let me ask you a question. Who's ahead of you now? Who's ahead of you now?
I don't know, and I don't care. I'm only worried about my journey.
Nobody though would be. I mean, you've accomplished.
I don't even think about who's ahead of me. I'm only thinking about like where I'm at and like what am I going to do next to fulfill me and what I believe in.
What do you believe in?
I believe in empowering people. I believe in my purpose on this earth, and it has nothing to do with anybody else's journey but my own.
That's dope.
Yeah.
What do you think your journey is?
I truly believe that my purpose in this world is to share my story, is to empower people through that, especially my own people, to give them hope, to allow them to see that wherever you are right now is not where you have to be, but I want to empower them to be able to see and know that nobody else but themselves has to do the work to even get there. There's no handouts.
Where should they find that though? So
within themselves. But there's no handouts.
I agree. There's no handouts. No one's coming to save you. But I'm going to ask you a question, right? So depending on how people are taught to think, right? So if I came into this world and I came in as a Latin immigrant, right?
Sure.
And I was around a bunch of, you're a piece of shit, you'll never amount to anything, and I absorbed just 10% of that.
Right.
That'll haunt me for a long time.
Absolutely.
And I might run into one successful Latin American person. They're probably going to either be a drug dealer or a gangster or a military person, hopefully, or something of that nature. But maybe, might not. So if you want, that's what you want to be, like, where did you find any of that strength? Like, where should they look? Like, if they're looking, like, if somebody's listening to this today, right? And it's a young Diana, they're 16 years old. And around them is a bunch of negative, sometimes we have negative parents, we have negative family members, and it's because of their circumstances. And it's weird, but they know they don't belong there and they want better.
Sure.
Like, how?
So if they know that they don't belong there, but then when I think about me when I was younger and I thought that I didn't belong where people were successful, they should decide between the two places that they don't belong. Do they not belong in scarcity mindset, or do they not belong in the mindset of where they can be successful?
So they're both uncomfortable.
Right? And they're both uncomfortable, but you have to choose your uncomfortable.
Which one feels better though, Dom?
Are you going to choose to be uncomfortable? A lot of the times, what you know is going to feel more comfortable, which is going to be scarcity.
That's complacency, which we understand from a military perspective. And
that is human behavior too.
That is correct.
That is human behavior. We only allow the things in our life that feel comfortable and familiar. And if scarcity mindset is familiar to you, then you're going to run towards that. But if you want more for yourself, you're going to go to places where
do they find
success is uncomfortable.
Where do they find it? So 16-year-old you, right? Because you have a psychology mindset. You have a psychology degree, I believe.
I do.
And what I'm asking you is
me,
from a 16-year-old. So if I'm a father,
yes,
and I want to put my 16-year-old daughter in the most conducive environment for her to succeed, she ain't gonna listen to what the fuck I tell her.
No.
So where do I take her?
No.
So that she can either A, be influenced correctly, or B, have a higher likelihood of making good choices.
So as a dad, this is where I will tell you, you can't take her anywhere she doesn't want to go.
What the? Where she tells me to take her, I want to take her. I'm a dad of daughters.
But you can't take her anywhere that she doesn't want to go.
That's true.
And you won't take her anywhere that she doesn't want to go. She's only going to want to go to where she wants to. And if it's scarcity mindset,
how do I make her think about that? How do I make her think about where she wants to go to make sure it's a good decision?
You can't. It is a personal choice.
That sucks. And I know you're right, because, well, I'm their dad. And
exactly.
I did a lot of shit.
It's a personal choice, but you can expose her by allowing her to be. You're obviously a very successful person, right? You're somebody who knows people who are in the right spaces. You can expose her to those things. And this is what I do with my children.
Correct.
Yeah, and this is what I do with my own children.
Well, that's why, like today with the incident that happened, like I didn't say anything to you when you went and were being what I like my friends to do, because I think it takes a fucking village. But when you tapped in, my daughter was very, she had an emotional response to what happened today.
Yes.
And then when you came in as a female and I saw it, I was just like, I ain't gonna add shit to this. I'm just moving out the way. But it was very beautiful too, because girls need girls.
Absolutely. But
and boys need boys. And a lot of us have, but girls need girls. And I see a lot of women not being there for women. And I'll speak on the women portion, because when I see kids be kids, kids are kids. And boys go play with boys and girls go play with girls, regardless of race, creed, color, religion. They don't ever ask, are you Jewish? Are you purple or pink?
No,
this is fucking Ted. Ted is dope as shit. Me and Ted are best friends.
Yeah.
And this is fucking Jamal. Jamal's cool as shit. And this is fucking Rico. And his daddy is fucking locked up because he's crazy.
This is why my kids go to a school in South Norfolk.
That's so dope.
Because I want them to be street smart before I want them to be smart. And the smart is up to me.
So speaking of smart, how the hell did you get in the Navy and why?
I got in the Navy because I wanted to get away from my hometown. And I'm sorry, Mom, but I wanted to get from my mom.
That's why those are both of them.
But I love you, Mom. I love you, Mom. I do love you, Mom. I do. Te amo, mamá, pero me quería separar.
Moms and daughters are different. Yeah, different
relationships. You know, Mexican culture is very community oriented, right?
Correct. That's what I love.
And I love that too. However, the downside to that, it's overbearing, and you act in the way that people expect you to.
Ooh,
right?
You know what? Ooh. And I think about instantly, you just made me think about a lot of my friends and other things, and fuck.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't, because I treasure the culture and I love that, but I didn't think about that aspect, especially on girls.
Especially
on girls. And I don't think, or women, correct. But women are girls first.
Of course.
And shit.
Yeah. So this is why I did what I did. Because I don't know why, but I've always been very rebellious. Right?
You're a Scorpio. Look at me.
This is true. This is also true.
You're also your mother's karma. So And I feel like I was my mother's karma also.
I am, but I'm also very much like my mom.
But what I mean is both good and bad. Both good and bad, because she has to look in the mirror and go, shit, I'm a little shit like that too. And then she kind of goes,
yeah,
that's my favorite little
and
shit.
we have conversations like that now and then. And she's like, you know what? She's like, admires me because I decided to do what the fuck I wanted to do. And she's like, I wish that I had the opportunity.
Hello? Because your mom
she admires
bent to other people's will and you did not.
Exactly.
And you are your mother, and she knows that. And she goes, yeah. And she's that motherfucker did that shit that I wanted to do. She's everything. She's like, you're everything that I wanted to be. Oh, what did that feel like? It felt really good. And it felt like I was somehow healing my mom's inner child. And it was... You're going to make me cry. That's some dope ass shit. Because speaking of that inner child, I want to talk about your poetry. Oh, okay. And one of the reasons that I became one of your fans is because I saw you post something. You posted real nonchalant, and you posted your book, and it was on Amazon. I was like, she's a local law enforcement person, veteran, dope, in the gym, disciplined. I was like, $11, buy. And then I shared it on Instagram. 11. Hello, my spirit number, love it. Yeah. And my soccer number too. Not 11, but 11. Mine's 6. It was 6? Why? My birthday's November 6th. That makes sense. Some Scorpio. I said, but 11, 6. I was 24 in basketball, though. Why, Kobe? Respect. That's right. I like it. But anyway, long story short, I was like, she was in the Navy. She works out. Did a show. I was like, and she got a book on Amazon. First of all, I was like, I'm a pussy. I need to do more shit. And then I was like, B, I'm buying her book. And then I posted it, and I was like, yo, be supportive. You shared it. And then I got the book. And right here on the very front page, it says, and this is, I be doing music and shit, so I like words. In these pages lie magic, heartbreak, and mayhem. And I said, was this a Playboy? Like that sounds so what? That sounds so erotic, neurotic. All the words in the dictionary. I was like, that is my life. But what? I was like, okay. And then the next one's the poetic woes of a woman. I said, oh, this shit is gonna be emotional. Yeah. But I was reading through here, and there was one that really, really kicked me in the gonads. And has anybody ever read your poetry? No. I'm gonna read you your poetry. Okay. All right. So this one just really struck me because this is gonna be really weird. All people feel the same things. Okay. And that's what I think my music does. Yeah. So the one that struck me a lot was, I get told I'm admired by my perseverance, my grit, my ability to keep going when things get hard, when my place is full, when I am tired, but I am paralyzed. I'm merely a puppet of the strings my responsibilities pull and tug at me to accomplish. You're gonna make me cry. I feel nothing. I think about the next thing and never about what the moment means. I feel like a fraud to myself. I beat and pound my heart into softness for the sake of loving well and living the life of a woman my kids will admire. But I am paralyzed emotionally. I'm handicapped. I feel no connection. I feel no joy. I'm a vessel for getting through to-do lists, the lists that pull the strings of my life. All while I cry and scream on the inside so that my kids won't know. They can never know. That shit hit me. I pretend to be really, really strong. I get weak on a daily basis. Yeah. And all of my friends tell me how strong I am. So I feel that I have to be strong. Yeah. And there's times where I don't want to be strong. And that's okay. Yeah. But I also don't want to be weak. I know what weak feels like too. And this one just struck me because everything in this, though, is for my children. And that shit, I was just like, golly. And in this book too, I learned something, and I just want to ask you real quick. I want to go back to this, like, where did that come from? Like, where were you at in your life to where you could put, girl, you lived this life before, is what I'm gonna say, because this shit ain't normal, especially with this being your second language. With this, like, until you said the word, I think you said mother in here, yeah, woman. Until you said that though, it was unisex.
Yeah.
And even then, it was only that, and you can easily make that say man, and then everything else in here is just very human.
It is.
Fuck saying unisex or male or female, is a human.
Yeah.
And how did you get to this? And then did this just pour out of you? Was this a one rote? Was this a refinement? And this was your, what is it? Because you did say that the economy is hard, so poetry is my therapist.
So at that point, I was going through my divorce after my 11-year marriage. And I didn't even think about that one. I just wrote it out after waking up one morning, and my kids always, so my ex-husband and I, we were separated for a couple of years, and he slept upstairs, I slept downstairs. And they came downstairs from their room. Their room was in the second floor, and they were like, their thing was like, "Mommy, the sun is out. You gotta wake up." And I couldn't get out of bed. I just couldn't. I was so, and like the poem says, I felt,
you're depressed,
paralyzed in place. Like I couldn't function because.
And you probably felt guilty about it too.
Yes, I felt so bad. I felt so guilty that their life was not going to look the same anymore. And I couldn't like keep it inside. And so I grabbed my notebook and I was like, "Can you give mommy a few moments?" And I was like, "I'll go make breakfast for you in a little bit." And I just wrote it down. And it came out as that, but that's literally how I felt at the moment. It's just like I had to pretend every single day that I was okay for them, but I wasn't. I wasn't okay. I didn't want to get out of bed. I didn't want to make breakfast. I didn't want to show up as your mom.
Do you think they saw that?
Yeah, they did. They would come into bed with me and they were like, "Mommy, are you okay? You look sad." And they knew when I cried. Like they would see it in my eyes.
Crazy, yeah.
They would. And my daughter.
Aren't kids the most beautiful shits ever?
They're fucking amazing. But my daughter specifically, she would come up to me and she'd like put my hair behind my ear. And she'd be like, "Mommy, I know you're sad, but I love you." And that's literally the shit that kept me going.
Yeah.
It kept me fucking going. Knowing that I was going to break their heart eventually, but not being under the same roof as their dad every day, which they had known for 10 fucking years. And it broke my fucking heart.
How many years do you think you stayed that you wouldn't have stayed if it wasn't for your kids? And I say that as somebody who did that, so I'm not joking.
Literally after my youngest was born. So I would say. But
you did it for your children and for just trying to give them what you wanted.
Yeah, and I offered therapy and I was like, "Hey, like I."
How is that being somebody who studies psychology and all that shit, and then being in a relationship with somebody that you know? I hate saying this word because I don't think people need help. I think a lot of people need guidance from somebody they trust.
Sure, therapy is not for everybody.
We'll call it therapy is for everybody. They just didn't find the right therapist. The problem is everybody lets shit be ruined by one or two people for a whole fucking thing that is very beneficial. Just like a couple of men will ruin it for a woman for the rest of her life, and that sucks because there's 3 billion people, and they say like 50% are men, 50% are women, so there's 1.5 billion people that get judged by a few.
Right.
And therapy, I went through a lot of therapists, and I found one I trusted, and she knows me more deeply and intimate than anybody in my entire life.
Yeah.
But through that relationship, I've gotten to know me more deeply and intimately than anybody in my entire life.
Yeah, I just think, people are, like I said before.
But how do you not like analyze your partner, or how do you like, that was the original question, like how do
I
you have
mean-
that education and then, for lack of better words, accepting somebody not being like woke to their emotional maturity?
Well, having that knowledge, I think I grew to understand that people are only going to meet you as far as they meet themselves. And and so at that point, if I'm willing to meet myself very deeply and he's not, then I know he's not going to meet me as deeply as I want to meet myself. And sometimes, actually a lot of the times in life, and I literally had a therapy appointment earlier today.
I had one
and
yesterday.
I was just talking to my therapist about it, and it's like, a lot of the times in life, you're not going to understand. You just have to let it be what it is.
Well, that's letting go and letting God, or all these little parables. I believe in parables.
Well, there is so many parables to describe that, right? But the main point for people who don't believe in other, entities or whatever, it's just like, a lot of the times.
No, just believe that you're not powerful enough to influence shit. So be okay with
and
whatever
it's not
shit
that you're
happens.
not powerful enough. We're very powerful people.
Correct.
But our power is for ourselves.
Hello? No, say it again, baby.
You know
for
what
who?
I mean? For ourselves.
Okay.
Right?
And that's the point.
It's not for anyone else.
Yes. Well, the Marine Corps gave me that first lesson. And the first lesson I learned of letting go and letting God. And I just learned another one now, many moons later. But I was getting on the plane in Kuwait and we were flying into Iraq. And this was like 2005.
Mm-hmm.
So shit was fun.
Yeah.
But they gave us ammunition for the first time ever, and we weren't on the range.
Was it old or new? Was it rusted or not?
Oh no, that shit was all
shiny?
brand fucking new. Fuck
shiny?
yeah, that shit was goddamn fucking.
Good.
That shit was straight from Dick Cheney.
I
You
love
understand me? That shit was straight from Halliburton. But when they gave it to me, I remember in my head, I said, "Fuck me," because I was like, "Yo, this is for people. This ain't for targets."
Right.
And that's what you go to. I mean, that's what I joined the fucking Marine Corps for. I joined post 9/11.
Right.
I joined in 2002, 2003.
Yeah.
I knew what I was doing. And, but I remember I looked around and I was like, motherfucker, I'm a United States Marine. Out of all the ones, it's the hardest. Cool. B, I took training seriously. C, if I'm going to die, I'm not going to die scared. Right. Because dying is a moment. And it was in my head, I was like, huh. So then, like, even now, I'm going through some family court stuff and some stuff that we talked about earlier. And a younger me would have been obsessed on it. I would have went out and drank more than I normally would. I would have been out. I would have probably been more of a cunt than I normally would be.
Right.
And I say that word with in a lot of women get upset by that
as you
word.
should.
But no, the men are more cunts than women.
Yeah, you should be very respectful about it.
100%. But
good, yeah.
I got a lot of Australian friends. Okay. Men are more that way than women are. Promise you. Okay. I find a lot of women nowadays to be more strong than men. And that's not sadly, that's just what we've evolved into. We have a lot of soft men in this society. Do we
1,000%. Yeah.
1,000%.
Yeah.
And I think that one thing that I know is, and I think I told you this, and I think everybody should tell their friends or different people this if they feel it. Like, keep going. You inspire me, period. From a creative point, you've put trauma, and I think we're going to do more than one of these things because there's another poem in there and we're not going to get to it, but you know, it's what I'm talking about. And your strength and your strength through vulnerability and demonstrating that for not just women, but for people, but more importantly for women. I salute, I respect, and yeah, I appreciate you. I want you to do me one more favor. Leave these women with one thing that you wish that somebody would have said to you when you were a young woman.
When I was a young woman. I would definitely say, don't let the hard times harden you. Continue to be soft.
You got to fuck around, bring a goddamn poet on the Cowboy Top Hat. She said, I should have thought of this shit. See, I love when somebody says some shit And I think I should have thought of that shit. She said, don't let the hard times harden you, bro.
Continue to be soft.
Bro, I've been trying to be room temperature butter my whole life. They keep putting my ass in the fridge. You know what I'm talking about? But she's saying, fuck the fridge. Do some goddamn Wim Hof breathing and soften up, you bitch.
That's not how I said it, but you know what I mean.
She ain't wrong. But I said it how I said it because that's what I heard. Is y'all are a bunch of pussies and you need to wake up and go join your local law enforcement and make better in your community. And that's not what she said. She said, hey, be good people, man. Be good people, be good parents, and have understanding that you don't know shit about what anybody has been through.
But love gets you through a lot of it.
Does it?
Yeah.
Well, how do you keep it?
Allow yourself to be love.
She said, don't let the hard times harden you. That is so dope. That's so dope.
We are love.
But sometimes I train, though, to be hard. And then sometimes I do notice, like, I'm, like, my daughters will check my ass. And they'll just be like.
But being hard does not mean that there is a lack of love. They are not mutually exclusive things.
Yeah, fair.
They are one and the same.
Yeah. Yeah, so be hard, you pussies. No, I'm just kidding. We'll see y'all next time, man. I'm just kidding, but I'm not. But realistically, hug your friends, take care of people, call your fucking parents, because one day you won't be able to.
Tell them
and remember,
you love them.
You're going to miss the fingerprints on the fucking windows and all the other shit. The kids, fuck them kids, but also you'll miss being annoyed by them fucking kids. You know what I'm saying? So,
yeah.
Love y'all. See y'all next time. Thank you so much, Diane.
Of course.
Peace.